Before this video ends, I need you to do one thing: go to the comments and tell me, have you ever felt watched in the dark? Because after what I'm about to tell you, you will understand exactly why I'm asking. They found his tent perfectly set up, his food still warm on the camp stove, his boots placed neatly outside the door. But Daniel Marsh had been missing for 11 days. What they never released to the press, what his wife only learned 3 months later, was what was carved into every tree within a 100-foot radius of that camp. Numbers. Counting down. And the last one was 0. Daniel Marsh was not the kind of man who got scared. He was 38 years old, a former search and rescue volunteer, a father of 2 girls, a man who had pulled bodies out of ravines and still slept soundly afterward. His wife, Claire, often said he had a switch somewhere inside him that other men didn't have, something that turned off the fear before it could root. So when his old college friends proposed the trip, he didn't hesitate. 4 men. 5 days. The Black Ridge Trail in the Olympic Peninsula, Washington State. 32 miles of old-growth forest, no phone signal, no rangers, no noise except wind and birds and the crack of their own boots on wet pine needles. His friends were Marcus Webb, a high school chemistry teacher from Portland. Owen Hale, a structural engineer who still ran half marathons at 41. And James Calloway, everyone called him Cal, a man Daniel had known since they were 18 years old and sharing a cramped dorm room. They had done trips like this before. Oregon coast. Shenandoah. The Adirondacks in November. This was supposed to be the same. The trailhead sign for Blackridge had a notice stapled to the wooden post. It had been there long enough that the paper had warped and browned at the edges, the ink faded to near illegibility. Marcus pulled out his phone to take a photo. He could just barely make out the words. Trail closed, unexplained disappearances, contact ranger station. That's old, Cal said, not even stopping. They put those up everywhere out here. Daniel looked at the sign for a moment longer than the others. Then he followed. The first day was everything they'd hoped for. The forest swallowed the trailhead noise within minutes. Out here, the trees weren't the modest, manageable kind you find in parks. These were the originals. Douglas firs 5 feet wide. Hemlocks tall enough to blot out the sky in columns. The light that reached the forest floor was greenish, diffused, like light filtering through seawater. It smelled like earth and cold and something faintly sweet, cedar bark, rotting wood, the clean chemical sharpness of pine sap. They made 8 miles by late afternoon. Set up camp near a creek. Cal produced a flask of bourbon. Marcus burned the hot dogs. Owen talked about his daughter's first steps. Daniel sat with his back against a fir tree and stared into the tree line as the dark came in. "You okay?" Cal asked him. "Yeah," Daniel said. "Just listening." "To what?" Daniel didn't answer right away. "I don't know. It's quiet." Cal laughed. "That's the point, man. That's the whole point." Daniel nodded. He took the flask when Cal offered it. But he kept listening. Because here is what Daniel had noticed, and what he said nothing about to his friends. In 5 hours of hiking, they had not heard a single bird. The second morning, Owen woke first. He unzipped the tent and stepped out into the gray pre-dawn light to start the camp stove, and that's when he saw it. Carved into the bark of the fir tree directly across from their camp, at eye level, deep and deliberate, the kind of mark that takes time, was the number 14. He assumed it was old. Hikers carve things. He thought nothing of it. He started the coffee and said nothing. By noon of the second day, Daniel had noticed 2 more. One on a fallen log, not carved, painted. Red paint or something that looked like red paint, the color of old rust. The number 13, in tall thin strokes. One scratched into a boulder near the creek crossing. 12. He didn't say anything to the others. He told himself it was a coincidence. Trail markers, maybe. Distance markers. Someone's idea of a joke. But his eyes had started moving differently through the forest. No longer looking ahead. Looking at every surface. Every trunk. Every stone. And then, on the third tree past the boulder. 11. They were counting down. Something changed in Cal on the second evening. It was subtle enough that only Daniel, who had known him for 20 years, would have noticed. He stopped talking. Not in the way tired men stop talking. In the way men stop talking when something is running through their mind that they can't explain out loud. At dinner, Daniel asked him about it. Cal. You good? Cal looked up. His eyes were strange, not frightened, exactly. Focused. Like he was listening to something just past the edge of the firelight. Did you hear that last night? Cal asked. Hear what? Like, counting. Soft. Like someone just outside the tent, counting. Marcus snorted. You were dreaming. I wasn't asleep yet. Owen said nothing. He was looking into his food. Daniel set down his fork. What number did it start at? Cal looked at him. There was a long pause. 11, Cal said. By the third morning, Cal was gone. His sleeping bag was still inside the tent. His boots were outside. His headlamp was hanging from the ridge line of the tent, still on, the beam pointing uselessly into the canvas ceiling. He had left in the night without shoes. His sleeping bag was still inside the tent. His boots were outside. His headlamp was hanging from the ridge line of the tent, still on, the beam pointing uselessly into the canvas ceiling. He had left in the night without shoes. They searched for 6 hours. Marcus and Owen worked in expanding circles from camp. Daniel went straight into the tree line in the direction Cal's tent opening had been facing, because something told him that was the direction Cal had walked. He found him at 2 in the afternoon, sitting cross-legged on the ground in a small clearing, approximately half a mile from camp. Cal was awake. Eyes open. Staring forward. He was fine. He said he was fine. But he couldn't explain where he had gone or why or what had happened between midnight and 2 o'clock. And when Daniel helped him to his feet, he noticed Cal's feet were clean. Perfectly clean. No mud. No pine needles. No cuts. As if he had walked half a mile through wet forest floor and left no mark on himself at all. They decided to leave that afternoon. The vote was 3-1. Cal said nothing either way. He sat at the edge of camp with his knees pulled up, staring at a fixed point in the middle distance, and when Daniel asked him what he was looking at, Cal said, "The trees." They packed quickly. Daniel was the last one to finish, and as he loaded his pack, he walked a slow circle around the camp perimeter. He found them on every tree within eyeshot of camp. Numbers. All of them. Going down. 9. 8. 7. 6. And on the tree directly behind Cal's tent, the one Cal would have been staring at if he'd looked straight through the canvas. 5. 5 meant they were 4 removed from something. Daniel didn't know what. He told himself he didn't want to know. But as he turned to go, he saw the one he had missed. On the inside of the fallen log that had served as their camp bench for 3 days. Turned away from them. Hidden until you were right on top of it. 14 had been carved there too. Not carved recently. The wood had grown over the edges of it. This marking was years old. This wasn't someone following them. Someone had been counting down to this campsite long before they arrived. They moved fast. Too fast. Owen turned his ankle on a root and had to be supported. The light was going. The canopy absorbed dusk like a sponge, and the forest went dark 30 minutes before sunset. Cal kept stopping. Not because he needed to rest. He would stop mid-stride and turn his head, like a dog hearing a frequency outside human range. Then he would turn back and keep walking and say nothing. The third time he stopped, Daniel grabbed his arm. "Cal! What are you hearing?" Cal turned to look at him. And for just a moment, just half a second, Daniel thought there was something wrong with Cal's eyes. Not the expression in them. The eyes themselves. The pupil. The shape. Then Cal blinked, and he looked normal again. "Nothing," Cal said. "Keep moving." At the 4-mile mark from the trailhead, they found a camp. Set up in a small clearing off the trail. 2-man tent. Rain fly properly staked. A camp stove on a flat rock. A pair of boots outside the door. The stove was on. A tin pot of water was just starting to boil. There was no one there. Marcus called out. His voice went into the trees and died. Owen grabbed his arm. "Don't. Someone could be hurt." "Leave it," Owen said. His voice was completely flat. "Leave it and walk." They left it. The trailhead was 1 mile ahead. Daniel knew because he was counting his own steps. He had started counting at the abandoned camp. He needed something to hold on to. Something real. 600 steps in, Cal stopped walking. He stopped completely. His pack hit the ground. His arms dropped to his sides. Daniel turned. Cal, come on." Cal was facing the tree line. The dark between the trees. "It's 3, Cal said. "What?" "It's 3. It says 3. Daniel looked at the tree Cal was facing. In the last thin light of the day, he could just make out the marking on the bark. 3. "Cal, there's nothing there. Look at me." "Cal." Cal took one step toward the trees. Daniel grabbed him by the back of the pack strap. Full weight, both hands, leaning back. Cal pulled against him. Not violently. Steadily. Like a man sleepwalking toward a door. Marcus came back and grabbed Cal's other arm. Together they pulled him back. They walked the last mile with Daniel's hand locked around Cal's wrist the entire way. Cal said nothing. His feet moved. He walked. But he kept turning his head to look back into the trees. They got out. They drove 4 hours to Portland. Nobody said much. Cal was seen by a doctor 2 days later. He was fine. Physically fine. No hypothermia. No neurological abnormality. Blood worked clean. He remembered nothing of the 4 days after the first night. Not the counting. Not the clearing. Not the walk out. He remembered the first evening. The bourbon. The hot dogs. The sound of the creek. Then nothing until he woke up in Owen's car. Daniel wrote everything down. Every number he could remember. Every tree. He sent an email to the Olympic National Forest Ranger Station. They never replied. He went back once, just to the trailhead. Just to look. The notice on the post was gone. The staples were still there, bent back, the paper torn away. Someone had removed it. He stood at the trailhead for a long time. He did not go in. On the drive home, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. A voicemail. He still has not listened to it. Claire says he wakes up some nights and stands at the bedroom window, staring out at the tree in their backyard. He tells her it's nothing. But she has started to notice the marks appearing on the bark. Small. Deliberate. Cut deep. She counted them last Tuesday. There were 14. Daniel never listened to that voicemail. I don't blame him. Because here is the thing about a countdown, it doesn't stop just because you walk away. It doesn't stop because you close the trail. It doesn't stop because you refuse to go back. It just keeps going. At its own pace. In its own time. Next week, we go somewhere you've heard of. A place with a name you recognize. And when you hear what happened there, you'll wish you hadn't. Until then, lock your doors. And if you hear something outside tonight that sounds like counting, don't open the window to check. If this story got under your skin, hit the like button right now. Not for me. Do it because somewhere out there, Daniel still hasn't listened to that voicemail. And someone should know this story exists. Share it. Subscribe. And leave a comment telling me, what number would make you stop and run.